Episode 15 is Stefan Laird. Stefan Laird's actually joined by Robbie Wildgoose. Stefan is Elgin City's assistant manager and Robbie is Elgin City's masseuse. Stefan has had time at Elgin, Huntly, Maud, Blackpool, Rangers, Aberdeen, Ladies, Inverurie, Greenock, Morton, the list goes on and on. I was especially keen to speak to Stefan, being an assistant manager myself, and it was good to kind of hear his view and approach on the job. We also got a little bit of an insight into what a masseuse is like at a football club from Robbie, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Episode 15, we are back with Stefan Laird and Robbie Wildgoose. Stefan Laird is Elgin's assistant manager, plus many other roles he's held. Robbie is Elgin's masseuse. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
No worries at all. I got in touch with you a couple of weeks ago, Stefan. I've been down watching your training sessions, kind of blown away a bit because I'm just getting into coaching myself.
By the wind, probably, not the sessions.
Yeah. I'm just getting into coaching myself, so I've been picking up quite a lot from yourself and Alan, just watching your sessions. I'm going to get straight into questions because we've got a lot to get through. Two-part, open up to both of you. How good a football player were you as kids? What kind of level did you just get to?
For me, I'd done reasonably well, but I came quite late probably. I was speaking to Alan about this at training the other day actually. They're talking about the boys league sort of setup that they've got, and I didn't play organised football until I was maybe just about turned 13.
Wow.
Maybe 12. Before that, we just played in a thing. I'm from Greenock, originally outside Glasgow.
Yeah.
We live in Kilmacombe now, and that's where I went to school. But my family are from Greenock, and they've got a really good setup there called the Gourock Yak, which was it's a team. But up until that age group, you just sort of went and signed up, and you would be distributed randomly into teams.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, right, you're Barcelona, you're Real Madrid, you're Atletico
Always the
Madrid.
names, isn't it?
You'd play for 8 weeks. And then you would get randomised again into another team, and it'd be, right, now you're Falkirk and Hamilton and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I played until I was like 12. And then I went and played for Port Glasgow Boys Club. They were a reasonably good team. And then I went into Rangers at 14. And then from there went on and done reasonably well. So at school, I didn't play football at school. We didn't have a football team. I went to a rugby school, played rugby. Played football at break time, but there was me and my mate that played football, and we were probably the only two footballers in the school. And that's that was it. So it's only when I sort of went into sort of Rangers and stuff that you start to realise.
So there's a lesson out there to anyone listening that you don't have to be in an academy at 6 years old to get spotted.
No, I mean, probably what I've done is rare now.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of sometimes fight the battle for players of, I'm not a massive believer of it's too late at 11. I still think there's value in, in the non-academy system and the normal system. It's a different kind of football, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
But I think that the less exposure to that side sometimes makes it difficult for the academy boys when they go to the first team, because the academy football is missing a certain element that is very much present in the Scottish senior game.
Yeah.
We would love it maybe not to be, but the reality is that it is.
Aye.
So I just think sometimes that hinders the academy players. They're trying to step up.
Yeah.
I tell you, sometimes. So no, it wasn't a football school, and knew I was obviously a decent player. My dad played, but it was only once you sort of start playing with better players
You realise.
think, no, I'm actually quite good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So done reasonably well.
Magic. Robbie?
I was probably the opposite, to be fair. I was obsessed with football from a kid, straight from the start. So I played, and then, like Steph's saying, he probably didn't realise I was the opposite. I was probably looked half decent until I tried to play with decent, and then realised I wasn't like...
Sounds like me.
It
Sounds like me.
wasn't quite that level. So I played, and then... But my issue, I've joked about this with Steph before, I've been this height since I've been about 13, so I was huge, and now I'm a short arse now I'm an adult, so that hindered me a little bit. But I played up until I was like 18, amateur level, had a few trials with junior teams and that as a goalie, and then discovered that I actually quite liked the coaching side and running side of it with amateur levels and stuff, and kind of just went from there. I haven't attempted to play football in a while. It's just I'd rather coach and just be involved.
Yeah, it's the same as me, mate. It's
Yeah,
the same
it's
as
just
me.
being involved for me nowadays.
Yeah, as long as I've got a part of it, I'm not good enough to play. As long as I'm still a part of it, I'm happy.
I'm
Like,
the same.
what position did you play, Stefan?
Centre midfield.
Yeah.
Well, like everybody probably when I was playing in the sort of randomised stuff, I was a striker. And then as I began to play organised 11-a-side football, I was an attacking midfielder, and then a central midfielder, and then a defensive midfielder, and then a fullback. As I sort of went through the academy into sort of pro, and then injuries obviously had an impact and all that kind of stuff. But if you were to ask me now, what position are you? Centre midfielder is where I would say was my
Yeah,
where I wanted to play. That's who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
They're the players that I wanted to be, and yeah, that would be my number one. Number 8, old school box to box, doesn't really exist anymore.
Numbers. I'm all for the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think it's something that disappears for the game. We've spoke last couple of episodes about the 9.5 position, and like it's. You're not a 9, you're not a 10. That's a very specific position these days. But I'm massive about a 6 should be a 6. A 2 and a 3 should be a fullback. You know, 4 and a 5's your centre halves. Yeah, I could go on about that all day. But I won't. Right, what's the difference between being a coach and an assistant?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, to be fair. I hadn't really massively thought about it until you asked me it. So I think probably depending on what environment you're in, the definition changes, right? So abroad they have head coaches. They don't have managers, whereas in Britain they have managers. I was a manager myself, but probably before I was a coach. And then I realised, obviously, I think working as a manager that I was a coach.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. So obviously the coaching side, I think you're as an assistant manager, you're split between the two. As a coach, you're just coaching. You're delivering sessions, and probably when you're not working within maybe a more structured professional environment, you're designing it, organising it, coaching it, delivering it, deciding the content, how you want to play. You're probably doing all of it. When you go into the more structured environment and sort of semi-pro and pro, then there's a bit more order and structure. So, for example, for our setup, so I went in with Alan at Huntly, now obviously at Elgin, and obviously I've observed managers at the high level and assistant managers and how it works. The manager will decide in discussion with the assistant manager of how they're going to play, what the game model is going to be, what the structure is going to be, what the tactics are going to be, what the identity is going to be, and then you'll formulate a way to deliver that to the players, and how to get those characteristics and methods into them to then deliver it on the pitch, right? So as the assistant manager, you have a say in that process. The manager is the one who makes the final call. He's the one that's going to deliver that main message within the dressing room and within the entirety of the club. And I think as the assistant manager, you have a duty to advise the manager, give him a different opinion sometimes, be the other voice, offer alternatives, offer solutions. And he then goes away and digests it all and makes the call. And then once he makes the call, it's your job to support him. And support him publicly and within the dressing room. And then if there is something that you want to question, you go and question it in the office when it's you two. And then as the assistant manager, you have quite a large part, certainly in the full-time environment, of actually delivering it on the training pitch. A lot of the time in a full-time environment, the manager's probably not on the training pitch as much as you would think. The foreign model's different from that. Obviously, you see guys like Guardiola and stuff, and their head coaches, they're on training ground a lot. As opposed to maybe like a Mourinho, who's maybe not on the training ground as much. As a coach, you're just delivering. You're delivering. So you're not maybe involved in that decision-making process as much. You'll be involved in designing the sessions and delivering the sessions. And sometimes the assistant manager would almost run the coaches and the manager runs
everything else.
So I think that's the difference between an assistant and a coach. You're maybe a wee bit more present within the decision-making process and within the distribution of that across the whole club, and not just to the players. And you are the manager's number one warrior that will go beside them. And often it's a team, right? You see your managers and assistants go around together. There then will be instances where they'll take other coaches and And
Is it quite often, I feel with assistants, you may be able to tell me from your own experience with Alan, is it quite often with managers and assistant managers that they're chalk and cheese? They're completely different to each other?
yeah, listen, yeah, the players obviously know these things. Like, there's an element of acting that goes on, obviously, from who you really are as a person. I mean, the people that the players meet on the pitch and on the training ground, that's not who we are.
Yeah,
if you meet us in a Saturday night after the game, I mean, the emotions are running high and things have got to be done. It probably shouldn't be this way, but it's a week-to-week environment when you're in the first team setup. When you're in the academy setup, it's a year-to-year or 3-year to 3-year environment, which you could argue is probably the way the first team should be. But it would certainly aid the development of young players and probably aid the development of clubs long term, but it's not. And
is that down to job security?
Massively.
Yeah.
And supporters have got a massive part to play in that. They moan about it, but they are probably the number one. If we lose, the reality is that we're pretty well liked at the minute at Elgin.
Yep.
But if we lose our next 4 games, then we won't be as well liked, and everything you've done over the last 5 months will be forgotten. Yeah. There's not many jobs like that.
No.
Where it can change that quickly, and the security. So without the security, where's the incentive to put a 17-year-old in? You've got to be really brave.
Yep.
And back that player to go and do that. So it harms the overall development of the nation's game for the young players and the academy players and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, within the training ground, you're a different person. You've got to drive certain standards, and outside the training ground, you can be yourself.
Yes,
and most of the players probably never meet that person. A lot of them will only meet you after. So with our previous club at Huntly, I think a lot of the players I get quite demanding, and and as does Alan. That's the environment we grew up in as players ourselves, and dressing rooms were very honest places when we were playing, obviously, and I think that was the same at all levels.
Yeah,
and it's what I witnessed down, not being on the pitch as much as I wanted to be, but observing the players that were, and the senior players that played at the top level. The conversations in the dressing room were frank, and they were targeted, and they were individual.
Yeah.
Whereas that doesn't really exist as much.
It's coming away from it now. Yeah.
Society's came away from it, right? So it's the same within our dressing room. The young ones don't react as well to you are not performing. It's more we are not performing, and how can we find a solution? So yeah, within that, you can have a good laugh and a joke, obviously, in the changing room, but there's times where you wouldn't dream of behaving the way in real life as you do in the changing room sometimes. Not to say that we don't really do anything untoward, but voices certainly, obviously, at times get raised. Probably more so, to be honest, at training than on a game, because that's where we try and drive the standard. But it's definitely 2 different people, and certainly when myself and Alan speak on the phone every day and all that kind of stuff, it's just us. We have our own relationship together, which is probably the most important one.
I'm the same. I've got Dominic. I'm Dominic's assistant manager for an adult squad, and we're the same. We speak to the guys not the way we speak to each other, and it's just. And a lot of the times with the younger guys, and it's like I've found this recently. You asked me the question on the podcast last week that what's the most surprising thing I've found in coaching is not everyone's the same, and everyone's an individual character, and trying to find that balance is probably the key to being a good manager. In reality, it's who needs an arm around him, who needs shouted at, who needs a bit of instruction, who needs help with this. It's these little things that create the bigger picture.
I think what we're good at, probably, Rod, you observe us, you would tell me I'm talking nonsense, but a lot of the time there's a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
We don't maybe have that as much in terms of I'm the good cop, Alan's the bad cop, or vice versa. It's on the day who's doing that. So I mean, if Alan comes in and roasts them, or he's at them at training and he's getting on top of them, then it's probably my job then I'll take it down a notch and go and speak to players.
I think you do it well though, in terms of like it's never planned. You are
No.
very good at just
sensing how the
Sensing
other
how-
person.
On the moment
Yeah.
of things, yeah.
'Cause when the like, I think if Alan chooses to step in that way, he's the manager, and I don't think the players then gain anything from me then going in and shouting the same stuff, and
Yep.
I'll then say individually to him, well, maybe, he means this, look at this and look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll obviously sense that sometimes I'll just go and he'll do the same. So, but yeah, you're right, it's based on the individual. I mean, there's boys within the squad we've got now that we know they don't react well to that, so it'd be, there'd be absolutely no productivity in
Yep.
behaving that way.
Counterproductive,
and,
yeah, you
and
don't want
doing
that.
that. And then there are boys that do want they need that pressure. They need that somebody being on them all the time in order for them to produce their best. But I think on the whole, that you have to be calm
Yeah.
now, and certainly off the pitch, it's always calm when you're speaking to the players within the dressing room
Unless there's a
environment.
referee involved.
Yeah, no, listen, and even that, like, I think I probably learned when I was a player. I honestly don't. Obviously, sometimes people will lose their temper with the referee just because it's emotional and there's a lot riding on each decision, and I don't think people understand how much is riding sometimes on the individual decisions and stuff. But it is a really tough job. I mean, especially at this level, it's impossible
Yeah.
to get it all right. And I don't think there is anything to be gained from going absolutely mental at the linesman and the referee, because I think human nature comes into it. And I don't think referees or linesmen will ever give a decision based on who they like and who they don't like. I don't think that'll ever happen. But if you're going ballistic at somebody over and over and over again,
It's not helping.
no, I don't see how in any way it can be a positive impact for you. So, not that you've got to manipulate it, because that's the wrong word, but I think you've got to do everything you possibly can to try and gain an advantage on the opposition. And if
agree.
that means you can try and not influence the referee and the linesman, but try and do everything you possibly can to
I agree,
get
yeah.
a favourable reaction for yourself.
I've always found games have went better in my favour when I'm having a good laugh with the referee.
Yeah, no,
Um,
we try. We don't always succeed, but we try. And I'd like to think if you asked the referees and stuff, we would be near the bottom of the list
Good.
for people that they don't want to deal with.
The team discipline at Elgin seems to be pretty good as well. You don't really pick up a lot of yellows and reds, and I'm looking. I've been a man that's followed Elgin for the last 15 years, and I'm sorry, I'm going to point out certain players like we had Darryl McCarty, who was quite notorious for a yellow. I actually thought Darryl used to play better on a yellow. There's some players that are like that; they'll play better on a yellow. There doesn't seem to be that part of dissent in the team just now. It seems to be.
No, we identified it like before we'd done extensive research when Alan was approached. We then done a lot of hours on watching pretty much every single game that Elgin had played that season, all the stats, try to find out as much as we could about the personalities. We're only going to take the job if then we can make a success of it, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we identified was too many yellow reds for dissent and for these kind of things. And like I said, it's about trying to do everything you possibly can to create an advantage for yourself, and needless bookings and red cards are not within that realm. So the players were put under pressure, pretty quickly that wasn't going to be accepted. It does happen, obviously.
Yep.
But not on a regular basis. It's not acceptable.
No, it's not.
It's a weakness.
It is. I agree.
And I would see it as you can be taken off your game mentally. And I think it also panic distributes quicker through a team than confidence does.
Oh,
And I think it looks panicky and it looks erratic, maybe would be the word I would use. But on the booking front of that kind of stuff, bookings for dissent and all that kind of stuff, not acceptable. But last week, for example, we played East Fife, and I would have liked to have seen us get a couple of bookings.
Yeah,
Because-
vaccination stuff.
Yeah, and in terms of trying to put a stamp on the game, and maybe that's an old school way of not to go and hurt somebody.
No.
Not to go and hurt somebody, but to go and ask a different question.
Yeah.
And things weren't going well. We weren't playing well. They were playing well. They were in our face. And I felt we could have brought the rhythm up a wee bit more. I felt we could have done with being a wee bit tougher and a wee bit harder physically and mentally. But to be fair, the boys have been excellent, for that kind of stuff. But there's a time and a place to maybe
There
pick
is.
up a booking, and there could be a good booking, but there's no good booking for dissent or for
No, I agree with
anything
that.
like that.
Okay, if you can both give me one name, what footballers influenced you both growing up?
It's gonna be a wild one off of me, but when I grew up, my uncle lived in Blackburn in England.
Okay.
And my dad's a rugby man, so my kind of football came from my uncle Richard. So Colin Hendry probably.
Okay, so we've potentially got a future line-up with Colin coming on.
Colin Hendry for me, because that was kind of my uncle Richard's. That was his hero, because he was God down there. And I used to spend a lot of summer holidays down in Blackburn and stuff. And you're seeing this guy that's from 40 minutes up the road from where I'm from being treated like a hero. So yeah, probably him, to be honest.
That's a fantastic shout.
Yeah,
he's a legend. Stefan, sorry.
One name's really tough.
I think could is it going to be a Rangers name?
I mean, it could be, but
I'm going to go.
There's different reasons. If it's like, so it would either be for my position where I played, it was Barry Ferguson and Roy Keane. So United they're my two teams that I wanted growing up. But for total influence, it could have been Beckham. It'd be one of them three for different reasons. I mean, I wanted to be, Barry Ferguson is who I wanted to be. I wanted to play for Rangers first and foremost. Was my dream.
Yes.
And
would you have been around these players at Rangers?
Yeah, when I was younger, yeah. So when I went in there at sort of 14, just about to turn 14, Murray Park was quite new then. Blue Heaven documentary was on.
I've seen that, yeah.
So that age group were maybe 3 years above me, 4 years above me. So it was like Alan Hutton, Charlie Adam, Chris Burke, Scott Agnew and John McMillan, all those kind of boys. I mean, great group. They went on to do thousands of games at the top level, obviously, between them all. They were probably like the reserve team at that time.
Right.
And I was in the under 17s as like a 14-year-old. It was 15s, 17s, 19s then. And then first team, reserves first team. So we would get to watch them. There's the indoor hall at Murray Park, and then there's the outdoor pitches. So when you would go in, there was a wee sort of crossover between the full-time players and the academy players that were coming in at night. Full-time players kind of going home. So you would see those older ones.
Yeah.
There, obviously, in Barry Ferguson being the captain of the club at the time.
Would you have been starry-eyed at that?
Yeah, and initially, very much so. That goes away quite quickly.
It does, yeah.
But initially, yeah, definitely. I mean, Rangers are an incredible team. And that been Ronald de Boer, Frank de Boer, those kind of people, and you get to see them in action. They were good at that point of sort of mixing everybody around as you start to go through up the age groups. Not that you would always train with people older than you, but certainly if they seen you in the hall, they would talk to you. I used to practice free kicks a lot. Ronald de Boer came in one day when my dad was there and helped show me how to hit free kicks. European Cup winner,
exactly.
So things like that are great. I've still got his training top in the house from that day. And I trained with the reserves at a really young age, trained a few times with the first team at a young age. So yeah, no, that was great. So I mean, I just wanted to be Barry Ferguson in terms of he embodied to me and still does as what a Rangers player is.
Yes,
and that's what a lot of people probably don't like up here. He's arrogant. He's got a lot to say for himself.
Yep.
He will not shirk any challenge. No. He's a leader. He's a winner.
It shows the level of the man by how much he's hated by our fan base. And I've always said this: to be hated, you've got to be a good player.
Yes, like Scott Brown. Now, any Rangers supporter who says they wouldn't want Scott Brown in their team is a liar.
Yeah,
or they're just consumed by hatred of the two sides, right? So like when you're playing, that's again it kind of comes out of it. My brother's a Celtic supporter. Anyway, so
who does your dad support?
My dad's a chairman of Morton, so he's a Morton fan.
Okay.
We won't get to that, but yeah, no, he's a Morton fan. But he was at Rangers when he was younger, as well. So no, he played for Rangers and he also played for Morton.
There's quite a big connection between the two clubs as well, isn't there?
Yeah. Lots of players have sort of went back and forth, McInnes and all that kind of stuff. We're both. So no, yeah, Ferguson. He's the kind of player I don't think we produce now, and he's the one that I wanted to be. And then Roy Keane for the same reasons of just he was that kind of person on a
Fantastic.
world level. And again, the kind of person that doesn't exist anymore. That's the kind of player I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then just
shocking 6 months at Celtic, by the way. Like, absolutely shocking.
But Beckham, in terms of just, I loved David Beckham, and he probably made me go out and practice more than any other player.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of David Beckham videos, and I had all the haircuts, I had all the boots.
Everyone had posters and all that.
I
Yeah.
had all of it.
Picturing you with curtains now.
I probably hit, practice in my life, tens of thousands of free kicks, and that's probably just a direct result of him.
Yeah.
So that would.
Massive. Okay, right. This is probably the biggest one for me, considering I've just became an assistant manager myself recently. Stefan, what is the key to being a good assistant manager? Is it
Support the manager.
Undying support for the manager?
Yeah. In the dressing room and in the public, certainly you've got to be a unit. You don't have to agree on everything. I think that's important as well. You have to agree on the main characteristics, principles, the idea and the end goal of where you are trying to get to.
Yeah.
You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to go and carry out orders. Even if the decision within the office doesn't go your way, you have to carry out the instruction to a T, and have full belief in what you are doing. But yeah, supporting each other. I mean, I think Alan will probably agree with this. I was a manager as well before I was an assistant.
Yeah.
And it's a very lonely, lonely place to be. If you don't have the support around you, I don't think it's possible to do it to a good level. I mean, I was in charge of the Aberdeen women's team, and I was on my own, and it was really, really tough. And not from the standpoint of running training and all that kind of stuff. That's the easy stuff, really. It's after the game and the pressure, and it's not the pressure that comes from out with, it's the pressure, the internal pressure from yourself. You obviously have that notion, that an awareness that your name is on it, and that is your name that's on it. So for Alan just now, Alan will realise the value of his staff, myself, Robbie, all the people around him. But the bottom line is, if we lose today and we lose 4-0, it's Alan Hale's Elgin that have lost.
Yes.
People will not turn around and say it's Alan Hale and Stefan Laird's Elgin. They will say it's Alan Hale's Elgin, and he will take the majority of that flack.
Yep.
So I have to internally take that. And that's your duty and job to do. And I think you can only be with the manager if you've got, I've got total belief in Alan, and I think he's got the same in me.
Yourself, yeah.
That's
half the battle.
And I think that's the way that we work. So no, I would say you've got, the players won't agree. I always say we're the most important team to us, because we've got to sort of lead and steer the ship. So I would say, you've got to support the manager. You've got to take a bit of the burden, and then you've got to be the number one cheerleader's the wrong word.
Nah,
conductor.
Yep.
Of the orchestra, and you've got to go and enforce those ideas constantly.
Yeah,
Constantly.
I feel almost a bit like a bodyguard at sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you are
for the players. They'll maybe have a bit of aggro, and it's like, well, come and take it out on me. He's got enough to deal with. You know. Robbie, what's the key to being a good masseuse?
It's being, for me, I enjoy the masseuse side. Obviously, do it full time, but in a football environment, it's probably working for the right team, like Alan and Steph for me.
Yeah. Huge.
Because I never did it in football until Huntly with Alan and Steph. It was always management or whatever at amateur level and junior level and stuff. And then I've came to Huntly originally with Alan and Steph, and that's the team that I want to be with. As soon as they got the Elgin job, I was still technically employed by Huntly, but as soon as they left, it wasn't for me. I wanted to be with Alan and Steph. Yeah. And I'm sure Alan doesn't mind me saying it, but I kind of drove probably getting up to Elgin now with them, because I just wanted to be there. I want to be part of that. Because it's good for me, because it's a role where you can be one of the boys. And I've been in management or football sort of coaching side since I was 21. Now I'm 34. And in the last 3 years, I've actually got to be one of the boys.
Yep.
And I enjoy that. But then there is that kind of level of, like we're saying with Steph, it's always their prerogative. I drive, like, I'll let the boys come in and have a moan. I feel like I'm good at it. I'm good at being the blanket for the boys, but at the same time, these Alan and Steph are the two boys that are my main concern.
Yep.
So I will let them have a moan, but it never goes too far. It's still, but I get what you're saying, but the gaffers have said this is what they're wanting. So it's always, I always drive that as well. So it's just been a team guy in terms of your question. Like Steph will probably agree, because it's always been under him, but it took me a while to realise, like I always used to think, I'm just a masseuse. I used to say, I'm just here to be the masseuse, and I think I'm more than that, to be honest, because I finally learned that role of being there for the boys, but I'm also the management's boys.
Yeah, that's the about when you're talking about the manager, and I'm saying how much respect you've got to have for the sort of load the manager takes on. Like the manager, remember, is not just managing the players.
Staff.
He's managing everybody.
Yeah.
He's managing the whole club and every single person that comes through the door. So like what he's saying there, or maybe I didn't realise, from being a full-time player now, like your full-time coach, see your kit man and the masseuse and the physio and all these people that are around the players more than their own families are.
Yep.
A lot of the time. The influence that these people have got in the dressing room is huge.
Yes.
And it's a massive role. You know, he's not just massaging the players, he's spending that full hour with them, talking to them. That might be the player slaughtering the manager and me. Maybe he needs to get out.
Yeah.
You know, and he needs to have the moan and have the slaughter, and it's really, really, really important. And he's also got an influence on how they think.
Is there also a term of, like, Robbie, you maybe find out, all right, so-and-so's not having such a great time at home, maybe feed that back to Alan and Stefan and things
I think
like that.
we've got a really good understanding now where Alan will give me that license to take what the boys are saying without him knowing. Like he doesn't want to know everything that the boys talk about, because he wants the boys to trust me, and they do.
Got to be the element of trust.
But then I would say over the past three and a bit years I've been with them too, I can think of 3 occasions where I've actually went to the gaffer and went, there's more to this. 2 was he maybe just needs an arm around him.
Yep.
And the other one was this could be detrimental a little bit. So I would say, in terms of actually not even grassing the guy up, but like thinking, right, this is beyond you just having a moan now. I need to tell the gaffer. And it came to it, and I think the guy ended up leaving the club. So I felt like I did my job in that respect as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the boys need to trust me, and I love that part of it, where I can be one of the boys, but I can also be one of the Alan Steph's coaching staff at the same time.
Yeah.
It's all together.
You've got the way Alan wants it to work, and the way it should be is that, you know, you've got a duty to protect the player across the board.
Yes, you do.
In any way that you can. So, you know, some of the things that Alan does and organises for players, I think, are way over and above the Call of Duty, the amount of jobs that he's got people, the amount of, you know, time off that they get. You know, there's no questions asked if it's a request for personal time off. Then it's given.
Yes.
There's no question of, well, why, how long. It's go and deal with it.
Yeah.
And those things come first, and there's a massive support network.
Human side to it.
Yeah, we have that for each other. Listen, like, the happier the player is, the better we think they're going to play. And you know, then there's the human side of it, where, you know, they're all good lads.
Yeah.
You know, the majority of footballers got a bad reputation. The majority of players that I've encountered, certainly 95% of them, they're just good lads, normal people. A lot of them not with maybe the direction that they could have had. So you want to help the person and not just the player.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that's definitely important to us. And obviously the mental health side of things with the younger players.
Yep.
It's something that probably wasn't spoken about or thought about when I was playing or when Alan was playing, and it's a massive part. So we want to make them feel comfortable where they can come and speak, you know, in the office. It's a safe place for everybody, and
brilliant.
That's good.
Yeah, no, that's what you need. SGL coaching, tell us a little bit about it, Stefan.
Yeah, so it's the other side of my football life. So when I sort of came up to Aberdeen, I was studying and doing the academy at Aberdeen, community stuff, and I done a lot of practice when I was younger. I done a lot of practice on my own, but I'd done a lot of practice when I was at Blackpool. In terms of when I went to Blackpool, I was 16.
Yep.
Most professional footballers probably still in the UK are done and dusted at 1 o'clock. They go home. I lived in a hotel for 3 years. I didn't really want to go and stay in the hotel from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock the next morning. Didn't want to go and sit in the bookies and do all that kind of stuff. So there was a wee bit of football was changing. You start to get your defensive midfielder, your attacking midfielder. It was, I was sort of getting used a wee bit as a fullback. I'd never played there before. And start to do position-specific training on my own.
Right.
Or with a couple other players or the coach or whatever it may well be. And I didn't really understand and still don't understand why it's not a standard part of training.
Yeah.
So when I finished playing, also went to coaching, was lucky enough to go around some of the big clubs within Europe and the world and see how they train, looked at other sports, and a lot of one-to-one coaching in detail in other sports, a lot of unit work in other sports. Just done a UEFA set there based on unit work, so it's certainly coming into football now at the higher levels in a big way, which is a good thing. But we then set the company up, first and foremost, it was to do one-to-ones. There wasn't a lot of one-to-one companies then. There's loads now, which is good, more choice for people. So we work with players that are from grassroots all the way through to full-time. We'll do technical one-to-ones, but we also do a lot of tactical work and tactical analysis.
Yes, that's important.
Which is probably not as sort of widely done even amongst the sort of one-to-one companies. But it's tailored, to the player, the level, and it's based on, game realistic scenarios. So the sessions are built on match scenarios in your position and the sort of corresponding positions around that. Because I think, when parents, especially when they've got their 12-year-old who's a striker, they think they're going to be a striker when they're 22, which obviously a lot of the time is rare. So like whatever those attributes we feel are directly transferable, we'll work on those positions. And on the tactical side, the most common thing we get from a lot of parents is, my boy or my daughter doesn't know where to stand. I certainly didn't get any tactical information outside my dad at all until I went into Rangers. It was the first time I'd ever experienced shaping. And, shaping without a ball, which at the time I just thought was mental. Hated it. Pouring rain, snow, standing there, balls over here, walk. But you understand the value of it as you begin to move forward. And certainly as a coach, it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So we sort of source game footage for young players of where, a player that plays in their position, this is where they move. We'll have the tactics board and we draw all the lines on the TV, and some of them love that, some of them hate it. But no, I think it's a valuable resource for players, and I think if a lot of young players are honest, the amount of time they spend on themselves is very little.
Yes.
The majority of training they get is general, and it's also tailored to that club. So what happens when you leave and you go somewhere else in a different system, in a different environment? And kids just don't practice as much as they used to. No,
that's true.
And I think everything's probably a wee bit more structured. Maybe parents don't like their kids going to the local park on their own for 4 hours now, and sort of world's maybe changed a wee bit where people are a wee bit more wary of doing that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you guys are the same. We used to go out and play for 5-6 hours, and the game ended when everyone was and you would just see random people, wouldn't you? And you would go up and ask them, do you want a game, or do you I hope it still happens, but we do a lot of sessions at goals where we've got access to the Astro and the grass, and there's huge playing fields there, and there is, I think in the 4 or 5 years we've been down there, I can count my one hand how many times I've seen people out just playing. So yeah, that's probably sad and maybe a wee bit of an indictment of where we are as a country. But no, I think there's great value in the one-to-one work. And certainly it's not about coming in and wanting to be a professional football player. It's about being the best player you can be at whatever level you want to go and play at, and improving the kids' communication skills and confidence. It's about enjoying it and being confident, and want them to leave with a smile on their face, and we want them to feel okay when they make mistakes and they make errors, and it's going to happen in the football pitch and it's going to happen in life. So hopefully we can prepare them a wee bit better off and on the pitch, and it's going really well. So yeah, it's been doing it 4 or 5 years, and we're sold out most of the time. and I think we're at the stage now we'll start to bring in a few more coaches, a few more employees, and all that kind of stuff now. So yeah, good. It'll be exciting.
Fantastic. And people can find you on Facebook.
They can find us on our website,
Facebook website,
www.sjl.
I found you on TikTok the other day as well.
TikTok's on there. I must admit, I need to bring in a social media person. I am not the plenty of watching the TikToks, but I'm not the best at doing them. Yeah. I'm just not that guy. but there's plenty of people out there who are much better at it than me. So yeah, no, we need to do. It's so time consuming, isn't it? Social media, like doing. I don't think people understand.
This is why I'm employing a producer.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I don't people understand how much time it takes and to formulate different content all the time.
Yeah.
So much time. So yeah, no, we need to get somebody in to actually take over it instead of me and my partner sort of.
I know what you mean.
But no, the website's great. So yeah, it's www.sglsoccercoaching.co.uk. All the information's.
Put a wee link there on that. What can we, Ryan, when somebody's saying that?
Yeah, no worries, mate.
What time you at? Just kind of being conscious.
40 minutes, mate.
40 minutes. What time's that for you, Stefan?
Plenty of time.
Excellent. Okay, another open question here. Favourite football player ever?
You probably realise now I can't answer a question in 4 or 5 words.
That's what podcasts are all about.
Favourite 10 football players.
Yeah. Jeez.
I'll give you. I think the way I've done it before with people is if you can give me one within Scotland, and then maybe give me one international.
For me, probably like.
And it doesn't have to be the best player. Just your favourite player.
God, I don't actually know. Russell Anderson probably for me as an Aberdeen fan.
Fantastic.
Just because Aberdeen boy won the, like obviously I was born in 89 and my parent, well so much my mum, she used to go Aberdeen games and stuff and she's seen them win things and they won the cup in 90.
She must be about 110.
When they obviously won it in 96, I was probably a bit too young to go, so Russell Anderson was the first captain that I seen lift a trophy. So for me probably that.
Just a constant in that Aberdeen team as well.
Big time, yeah. And he's a really nice guy as well. I've met him through like the massage side and football side and stuff, and he's just like Steph mentioned earlier on. He's just a normal guy.
Yeah.
So probably Russell Anderson for me in terms of the Scottish.
There's a wee bit of that's Russell Anderson when it was happening.
Do you know what? See, doing this job, I've noticed Steph kind of mentioned earlier on that about meeting like De Boer and Ferguson and all that. The novelty does wear off. And there is a sense of that because I've got a few of the Aberdeen boys come in, and when they first come in, you're a little bit like, oh my god. And then next time they're just 2-3 times down the line. It's just a normal guy getting a normal treatment like I do with everyone else. So
absolutely, yeah.
But it is cool. It is cool to meet people like that I've watched and stuff. And I'm working at that Cash for Kids charity game.
Yes,
in June, and I've seen that there are a few of the names that are announced for that, like Xander Diamond and Ian Chess and stuff. That would be a cool kind of watching these guys.
We'll just kind of hold that thought because I think we're away to try and do a Football Journals charity game next year. So if you're interested in being involved, I'll give you a shout, like Alan Main and goals and things like that. Yeah. So, Stefan,
Scotland, Barry Ferguson, easy one for me, and then the world.
I'm interested to see this as another midfielder.
Nah, do you know, like I could go Zidane and all that kind of stuff. Like that, just unbelievable. But who have I enjoyed watching the most for like a 3-year period? Ronaldinho was just like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And just for pure enjoyment, and you know, dreaming of being a player that you could never be yourself, and watching him just who knows, like these guys, obviously everyone's got different mentalities, but if he was able to have a different mentality and a different attitude to training and, you know, what, just like...
But do you think that would have made him a different player?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He played with the Samba freedom, and I think that's what made him such a good player.
Yeah,
you know?
Just like for that maybe, 2 or 3 years at Barcelona, it was just like...
It's
fairy tale stuff.
When I think of him, I always think back to the 2002 World Cup where it was him, Ronaldo and Rivaldo, the front three. And absolutely. And it doesn't matter who the other 8 guys behind them were. If you had them 3 in your team, you're winning. Like it's just...
But like you said, they're kind of on my note. I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going to say probably Roy Keane, or I really liked Maldini.
Ah,
Just because like Roy Keane's sort of like you're saying about, you could drive a team on. Like, you know, like Ronaldinho and all that can get the ball and do whatever he wants with it. Whereas Roy Keane could be having an absolute beast of a game, but he'll still go smash somebody. He'll go, like we're saying earlier on about the going and changing the game in terms of maybe being a bit more aggressive, a bit dirtier when you need to be. Like he could drive a team just by going, right, we're getting beat here, we need to do something. And Roy Keane was the one that could be like, yeah, I'll go do it. I'll go hit somebody, I'll go drive the ball 40 yards and make something happen. And then Maldini just made football, he made defence like so easy, man. Like I'm probably just jealous of the Barnet, to be honest. Like I wouldn't mind this Barnet, but he finished that game with the Barnet better than mine is normally.
Face,
so.
Barnet, body, all of it,
I don't remember Maldini ever having a bad game. You know, he's just.
I can't remember him breaking sweat, to be honest with you.
No, that's true. Like
he just made it look easy.
There's a thing about Italian defender in the 90s. Cannavaro, Nesta. I think it was Grosso that used to play at right back.
Yeah, fullback.
Zambrotta, sorry. Yeah. I could go on about that team all day. Okay, so can you just kind of describe the Huntly to Elgin journey, Stefan?
Yeah, so for me, I was...
How did you kind of first meet Alan, sorry?
Yeah, so Alan will tell this better than me, to be fair, but I was at Aberdeen with the women. I then was also involved in junior football at Mod with Robbie. I was sort of going back into the men's side, but I think Alan was the manager of Keith. Keith used to train either before or after us when I was with the women. Can't remember which one it was.
I think it was the same time.
No, it was either before or after. And I think you guys were maybe after. So
Yeah,
before.
that's it, yeah.
And he would obviously then see bits of my sessions, training. And then when Alan, it was just nearly during lockdown, Alan went and got the Huntly, was offered the Huntly job. And I got I'd been told about Alan. Obviously, with being at Mod, I think Alan's their most successful ever manager by a long, long way.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about him through being at Aberdeen. Listen, if there's a manager who's like in their early 30s and they're really successful, certainly in the district and locally, everybody knows who they are, right? So I knew who he was. And I just got a phone call. I'd never spoke to him before. And he says, listen, I want you to come and have a chat with me. I want you to meet me for coffee. I think we might be able to work together. And then it just went from there. And there'll always be, you know, no matter what happens in the rest of our lives. Sometimes, certainly when I've been younger, I've had quite a lot to say for myself. Probably been a wee bit too much Barry Ferguson off the park at times. And Alan, I think, was probably told by quite a few people not to take me on.
Okay.
I'm a very big believer in my own abilities.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always go down maybe too well. But I'm realistic. I mean, I work extremely hard. I'm you know, people would say that I'm arrogant. They'll say Aaron's arrogant. I don't think we are, because I'll challenge anybody to spend more hours on it than we do.
Yeah.
So I would say it's confidence. But he probably was warded off by quite a few people, and he chose not to listen to them, and he gave me a chance, and it's probably went better than we could ever have imagined. So we went into Huntly. It was very, very difficult, I think would be the best way to describe it. When we first went in, it was obviously during COVID. Yeah. We met the players on Zoom. You know, meeting your players on Zoom for the first time, doing a Zoom quiz, all that kind of stuff, is not something that I would recommend.
No, I don't think
it's really tough. And then we went in. Huntly, obviously, they were probably one of the only Highland League teams that I knew of, being down from Glasgow, and Huntly were really successful. Obviously, I knew that in the 90s. I remember them from the Scottish Cup and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, then when we do the research, they had obviously been struggling in a really, really bad way for quite a while. The club wasn't really in the greatest shape when we went in, and over the course of that sort of 3 years, we obviously managed to take them, you know, really far, made the great strides forward. You know, I like to think that, you know, certainly probably from Alan's side, he made a massive difference to that club in general.
Yes.
You know, put in a lot of infrastructure, and improve the general, Colin Charlesworth now is inheriting a much better scenario
Yes.
than Alan Hale inherited, and that's probably the best way to describe it. And I think Colin would be admitting that now, and he'll take on his own journey. And then obviously doing really well, and at our age, there's a wee bit of interest, I think, from a few clubs on the sort of way through. Certainly in that last season there, I think we were top of the league at one point. We were in the top 3 for the majority, which hasn't happened for a long time, on a budget that was probably, the 14th, 13th biggest budget maybe in the league at the time. So we're doing well. Great group of players. Loved every second of it. And, a bit of interest, I think, a couple of things didn't go through, what to stay at Huntly. And then obviously Elgin made the approach to Huntly, obviously, to speak to Alan, and it went from there. And obviously these things happen quickly, and then obviously we arrive at Elgin. We do the same sort of due diligence. Another club that's probably the last 3 or 4 years had quite a difficult time. So I think since they got into the playoffs, maybe that 4 or 5 years ago, it's kind of been like a 9th, 8th, 9th kind of scenario. And to be fair, been up here myself a couple of times, but I think they've got a great base in which to progress from. I think they've got a great fan base.
Yeah, they do.
Their average attendances are they're up a wee bit, which is great since we've came in. But I think they're the average, the best in the league.
Yes.
And from what the people at the club tell us, there's still scope to grow that. If we do even better, which we're hopeful of doing, and we'll try and do the same as we've done at Huntly. Alan will demand that we work hard. We're difficult to play against. We press high, and we attack.
You get the ball forward.
Is the way it's going to be, and that's obviously we would love to play like Man City. We've got to be realistic, and the level that you're playing at, and people say the players you're coaching. Yeah, these players, the difference technically between players at this level and the top level is not as big as you would think it is. Obviously, you have individuals that are capable of incredible things at the top level, but it's the movement and the understanding of the distances and the spaces and the rotations and all that kind of stuff. And when we spoke about that security sort of aspect of it earlier on, it takes, again, somebody really, really brave to say, right, we'll split the centre-backs and we'll rotate the midfield 3 like a carousel and all that, because we're going to give the ball away and we're going to concede goals. Yeah. And the fans have to be understanding of that, and the club has to be understanding of it. So we'll try and marry both and try and progress it at an even rate that's digestible for the players and sort of keeps things exciting for the fans. And that's the plan anyway. That might not work out the way we want, but it has so far. It's I think we're third in the league since Alan took over. I think we've more than trebled the points tally, trebled the goals.
First away win in, was it 2 years?
Yeah,
Just
first
under
away
2
win in
years,
2
yeah.
years. It's just mental. First back-to-back wins in ridiculous amount of time. And no, we're doing really well. And to be fair, again, we're great believers in our own abilities, but walking into the changing room at Elgin, probably a lot of the players don't know who we are.
Yes.
And it could have been very easy for them to, there's a lot of times in football that if you've not played 400 games at the top level, people won't listen to you. But these players we've changed a lot of what they were previously been asked to do and what they're been asked to do now, and they've worked their socks off and not provided a single issue since we've walked through the door. It's a really top group of boys who are starting to show what they're capable of, and they're certainly capable of more than what they're doing even now. So I think we've been really fortunate with the dressing room that we've walked into, and they're a great bunch of guys.
Some of the boys in there, like I've just written down a couple of names. I hope you don't mind speaking about them. Soapy, he's been there. Soapy's my age. I came through school with Soapy. It's actually Soapy and Colin Charlesworth. That was the 2 standouts at that age, and the Archibald twins as well. I've seen this guy from 13 to being Elgin City's record appearance player, but what is he actually like getting to know him on.
Nice.
Yeah, he's so nice.
So
Yeah.
nice.
Quiet. He's a really good player.
Yeah, it's good.
Obviously, he's coming towards the sort of latter, sort of 25-30% of his career now. He might think it's maybe the latter 15, but we'll try and push him a wee bit further. But I am really astounded that certainly maybe 7 or 8 years ago he didn't play at a higher level.
Yep.
I
think the offers were there.
Elgin, no disrespect to the level, the League Two and that level, but he's certainly somebody that, of a technical level and an understanding of the game and decision making, he's capable of playing full time football. Like there's no doubt about that. And such a nice guy.
Quiet, nice guy. Yeah.
Couldn't, again, probably the most experienced in the team in terms of, obviously you've got Drapes there, but in terms of the club and the area and the game, has played 550 games was his last game there at East Fife. Couldn't have been more supportive of us as young coaches coming in, and has been taking the ideas on board, and we've asked him to cover probably 300% more distance than he was covering before we came in, and he's not a single complaint, not a single moan, and has driven the rest of the boys on, and has been just an all-round good guy is how he comes across to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Russell Dingwall.
Yeah, so the players will they take the piss that Russell's my favourite until Danga came in, but no, I always laugh, but it's true. I mean, the amount of times I've shouted "Well done, Russell" in training or games so far, I've lost count, and he's kind of embodied what we've wanted out of the rest of the boys. Certainly, the first 3 weeks were really, really tough, and I think Russell was probably a key part within the dressing room of making the boys believe in what the methods that we want to do, and that pressing and the energy that he provides, and again the quality. Again, they'll laugh about me in stats. I mean, his stats are off the charts for goals and expected goals, unexpected assists. He's number one in the league.
Yeah.
For distance covered in that position, he's number one in the league.
It's crazy.
I think for like key passes in the final third, he's number one in the league. So he's just a threat. But works incredibly hard. Makes those around him work hard. Doesn't like to lose.
Yeah.
Gets pissed off in training, which I like. But also isn't, he's not daft. He understands the game, and again, just seems like a good guy and a really important person.
Yep.
In our dressing room, and I think Elgin are very lucky to have him.
I agree. One of the fan favourites, and somebody that we've been missing for. I've been watching Elgin for 15 seasons. Thomas McHale.
Yeah. Again, really nice, like so nice.
Nice guy.
Too nice.
He is what Elgin were missing for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Stevie, the goalie coach, will want me to say that. Too nice. That's what he always says. Not Tam. Again, like super supportive, big man mountain. Trains really hard. Again, don't really have a bad word to say about him. If he thinks he's made an error, he's more than happy to front up and say where he could have done better. Good communicator, great for the young lads in the changing room. Seems to really push everybody on, and what's very clear about Tam is that he's very popular.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole club. When we again first
he's popular amongst us a lot. Very popular.
When we first took over, like everyone's different in life, right? So some people just walk past the manager's dressing room. Don't think Tam ever walks past anybody.
No.
Without stopping and shaking their hand and asking, how's your day been, and how's your family, and all that kind of stuff. So
is he a wee bit mental like most goalies as well?
Do you know what? See, in terms of goalies, he's actually alright.
Yeah, maybe concerningly sensible for a goalie.
It's weird.
But he's done really well, made some really top saves, crucial saves for us. And he's one of them sort of stalwarts that's been at the club for a while, and you can see how much respect everybody's got from him. Like, I'm not just saying they're all just good guys, like they are. Like most change rooms you go into, you'll have a couple that are, you need to manage them and keep an eye on them in terms of the influence they might have. There's nobody like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a couple of people who are going to be a wee bit badder, but no, they're all really nice, and we've been very, very lucky, and we look forward to just sort of adding to the group really, because we're going to get into next season hopefully.
good. I'm just checking for time.
That's literally us about to hit the hour, mate.
Hour on. And what time have you got, Stefan, there?
Yeah, fine.
Perfect.
Plenty.
Okay. Right, so I'm going to go through the signings you have made at Elgin, and I want you to both pick one and tell me about.
Okay.
So this season, since you guys have come in, there's been Jeffreys, Dunganga, Golden, Gallagher, Booth, Bray, and Lewis Duncan. I'll give you let you pick between yourselves who wants who.
I'll go Boothie. Boothie's my boy. Lyle's so good, like such a good left back. And when he first came in, I feel like when he first came into Huntly, he was carrying his injury. He'd been at Aberdeen, he got let go from Bucky, was it, Brecon. And you could tell when he first came in, he was a little bit like, he wanted to play again. You could tell, like, first few sessions he came, it was just me and him, like, doing stuff on the pitch, like a little bit of running, massaging, treatment stuff. And you could tell he was a little bit lost. And then you see, compared to the Boothie I first met to now, you see him, like, his goal last week, 2 weeks ago, his right foot, I was so buzzing for him, because it's just like, he just takes everything in football and he just loves it. Like, you see him the first few sessions when we were running and he didn't know if he was going to play again, he didn't know if he was going to be as good as he thinks he could have been. And now you see him, he's so confident when he comes in the changing room, and he, like, big smiley face. He's same as Tam, like, he'll always speak to everyone, he won't walk past anyone, and he's just a confident guy now. And then I compared to what I first seen of Boothie, it's just a different person, and it's class to see, because I think he could go higher personally. I think there's another move in him down the line, hopefully. And but I think he's really, really good, and he's just, like Steph kept saying, he's just a good kid, but he embodies, like, the management style that Steph and Alan have got. It's always that sort of guys where academy level or higher, and then they've kind of lost their way a little bit and for whatever reason, and then you see them growing again. And that's what I love about Boothie. So Boothie's my boy. I'll pump his tires on that one.
Yeah, so similar. I want to talk about Danga. I'll just touch tiny bit on Deshaun as well. So, like, Michael Dangana. So if you ever hear us refer to Danga, that's who we're talking about. So he, I remembered Michael from playing in the Aberdeen Academy. Never coached him, but seen him play plenty of times. It was one of probably the highest regarded sort of group players in the country. He was up there. Had an incident where he sort of was on the verge of moving clubs to go abroad. Fell through. Kind of had a wee falling out with Aberdeen. I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I just won't go into it. Ended up clubless. And I don't think done anything for like sort of 6 or 7 months. Alan and myself know Kieran Shanks at Peterhead well.
Yes.
And Kieran was good friends with Michael's big brother David, who was also at Aberdeen. And through that, it was, well, you know, Kieran had came in and trained with Huntly. We couldn't afford to sign him, and he went to Locos. He's obviously went on and done great things from there. Kieran's a great player. And then we got Michael in training. We were delighted to get Michael in training at Huntly. Because in terms of technical ability, he was far superior to anything that we had at the club. But he was way out of practice and shape. Hadn't been exposed to any kind of pressing game before and didn't press at all. So you can imagine when the Huntly fans were introduced to Michael, he wasn't the most popular
Can see that,
player. He's the kind of player that's either going to light the ground up, or some of the fans want to light him up and try and get him, you know, out the game. So we've got total belief in Michael and had that at Huntly, and we knew that if we could get it right with him and we could help him on and off the pitch and get the belief back into him that there's a really special player there. And it happened as we expected. In that last 6 months there before we left Huntly in the Highland League, it was embarrassing at times in some of the games. You know, it was get off your seat stuff.
Yeah.
We spoke about sort of people like Ronaldinho and stuff before, entertainers, and football's entertainment business.
Yep.
People that can go by people and have got a trick and can do something unpredictable.
It seems like almost when he's one-on-one, it's like, you know, he's going to get past him.
He's devastating one-on-one, and it's like, so we've obviously taken him now to Elgin, and, you know, they've not even seen 20% of what Michael's capable of yet. He's having to go through that wee process again. They went through it at Huntly in terms of he's got to adapt now to League Two football. He's still a really young player. The players are now a wee bit stronger, a wee bit faster. So when he's coming in and dipping his shoulder, he's having to do it a wee bit quicker.
Yeah.
You could see that in the first 5 or 6 games. I think there was a few moans and groans from the stand. He's a really relaxed guy, just in life. But then obviously he scored his goal there a couple of weeks ago, which was just like brilliant.
Fantastic.
The boys in the dressing
goal.
room don't think he meant it. I can assure you he definitely meant it. And, he's starting to get up to speed. And once we get Danga through pre-season, if we can get him playing to anywhere near his capabilities, he is going to be massive for Elgin. And he's somebody that I think will have a massive future.
Yeah.
If he's with people that believe in him and people that are not going to... I say this in training, it really annoys me when people get at forward players for losing the ball. They're forward players.
Yeah,
that's why midfielders and defenders exist.
Absolutely.
So people like Russell and Danga and stuff in the final third, we want them to go 1v1. We want them to go and get at people and go by them and get people off their seat and make the game entertaining and enjoyable for people. Now, when they give it away, they better try their damnedest to win the ball back. But we're never going to criticise boys in the final third for going and trying something. And that's the licence that we give him. So, if there's any Elgin supporters that still doubt Michael, of which I'm sure there's some, then, they will see in the fullness of time just what he's capable of. And I absolutely love working with him. And I'm a massive believer in him. And another quick one's just Deshaun. Deshaun, we watched at the Highland League. He went on loan to Bankside from Cove. And you're talking about people, you just want to be around Deshaun, really.
Deshaun's ace.
He's a great laugh. He's got great energy in and around the ground, in the changing room.
He's also a handsome bugger as well.
Not as handsome as he thinks he is, but he is. But no, he's another one that even from working with him in a short amount of time, we are massive believers in what he could be capable of. Not worked out for him at Cove. Not sure why.
Strange, isn't it?
But it hasn't, and obviously they'll have their own prerogative on that, which is absolutely fine. But he's had a massive impact since he came in, and he's the kind of player that even if he's not scoring the goals that he wants to score, he is a massive threat.
Yeah.
But to sort of sum him up, he's injured just now, which hurts us and puts more pressure on the squad. But we were away at East Fife last week, and he's there.
He's travelled.
Not in the squad, travels just to go down and support everybody. He has to get kicked out the technical area before the game by the referee because he's desperate to sit on the bench and he's not allowed because he's injured. So that kind of sums him up. Just a really great guy. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be interest in him from other places and stuff in the summer, but we're absolutely thrilled to have him here for however long he is here, and it's a real pleasure to work with him.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to I'm being aware of time and things like that today.
Got 15 minutes.
15 minutes, right. So I'm going to ask you both, it's been your proudest achievement so far in football? So far, because there's more to come for both of you, I think. It can be a personal thing. It can be
just something little for me, probably just even getting to the level at Highland League, because I wasn't the best of footballers, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I spent a lot of time with my uncle going to locals games for about 10 years. I think we had a season ticket and used to go all the time. So getting to that level of then, for a first year I was at Huntley, I was just doing the stuff in the changing rooms and then sitting in the stand.
Yeah.
And then came onto the bench side to do all the first aid and that. So just doing little things like working for Huntley away to locals when my uncle was there as a supporter. I thought that was quite cool for me. It was really good to, and then we beat them at the start of last season, so it was good to get up him as well, because I love him, but get right on me. So that was kind of cool to get to a level that I didn't think I would get, because I'm quite modest about it. Like I just love my football, but getting to a level where I would never have got as a player, that for me is my achievement. Like I love it, and then obviously working for Aberdeen in that 6 months in the second lockdown, that was kind of a what am I doing here sort of thing, to seeing boys that like Johnny Hayes and Niall McGinn were the first two people in Masseuse working for Aberdeen, and I watched them win the cup, you know what I mean? It's like, so getting in there, and McInnes won the cup and he was the first person I met, And he said I looked like Rag and Bone Man, so I was happy with that. But he was getting to that 2 levels, getting to work at Highland League where my uncle was there and getting to watch me when I used to go as a boy, and then working for Aberdeen. That was my two big ones. And having the regulars, like Aberdeen players still coming all the time to my work, and that's really cool. Like,
that's awesome. Like,
some of these guys are my friends now, so to be friends with those guys through something I never thought I would get to, that's probably my achievements big time.
Fantastic, mate. Stefan?
Yeah, probably something I wasn't proud of maybe a few years ago. I wasn't, again, a big believer in my abilities. I thought I was a really good player when I was younger, highly touted, but never then had the career that was mapped out for me. To have really bad injuries and then probably didn't react well to them mentally.
Yep.
And got to a kind of point where I felt as if, why is this happening to me? It's been taken away from me, and didn't recover well enough from them, and attitude wasn't good enough probably in the end where it'd been perfect before. So I kind of looked back on my playing career a wee bit as if it never got to where it should have got to, so I wasn't happy with it. But playing full time, I should be proud of.
Absolutely.
Because how many boys in the world want to
the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah. So then to go and do it down in England as well, and be in the academy at Rangers, and then go down to Blackpool where we got promoted from League One at the Championship, and it was great looking back on it now. So I was probably a bit bitter about it previously, but not anymore. Now I look back on it with great fondness, and doing that with my dad was the proudest thing. My dad never missed a game.
Yeah.
Anywhere I went, he's the biggest influence on my life in general, and not just football. So going on that journey with him, I'll hopefully now go on with my own son, whatever sport he wants to.
That's just
go and
kind of a lesson. Anyone listening there, I've coached kids teams where their mum and dads maybe aren't down to watch them. How important is that for your mum and dad to watch you playing football?
See, to look, I don't know how many people are in the stand, like still being able to instantly find my dad. I don't know how that works, but what's quite sad, like even now, like as a coach, see if I look down the touchline and like my partner Megan's there, or my dad's there, or my mum's there, and you see them, and it just makes a difference to formulate sort of how angry I am or how angry I should be looking at them by their face. It makes a massive difference to me. So I'll always take that on board. And then as a coach, for being the proudest moment, it will hopefully arrive, in the next few weeks, if we can finish the job and keep the team up. Because when we took over, probably unbeknownst to maybe people out with the scenario, there was a lot of people who told us not to come to Elgin, and a lot of people who told us we were making the wrong decision, and a lot of people saying that, well, you're going to go down and what are they doing and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be very proud if we manage to get over the line, which I'm hopeful that we will, and I'll be absolutely delighted for the manager, because the amount of pressure he's been under and that kind of stuff. So fingers crossed that can come.
I can say from a fan's point of view that you've put the smiles back on faces, certainly.
We've got to keep them there though. That's the thing. So hopefully we can, I think certainly 4 more points, I think mathematically guarantees us. Yeah.
5 more games.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think 1 more win will put us almost there. Yeah. And put a lot of pressure on the teams below. But one thing about this league is that anybody can beat anybody. So the boys have got to be their best every week.
Absolutely. Okay, 1 to 11. I'll read it through, and then we'll pick some names out, because there's one name I really want to get into on this. Andy Gorham, Dani Alves, Rio Ferdinand, Paolo Medini at centre back, but you've got Ashley Cole at left back, so that's very acceptable. Yeah. Roy Keane, Barry Ferguson, Riquelme, Beckham, Larsson, Ronaldinho. Your qualifiers, you've seen all these players play live?
Yeah.
The first name I want to get into is Riquelme. That's throwback. That is classy.
I've known him for a long time, and he's brought back a lot.
I don't understand why he didn't do it at Barcelona. That Argentina team, I can't remember what World Cup it was. It was like Cambiaso and
2006.
Just like the quality on the ball. And when he was at Villarreal, I seen him play at Ibrox, and it was just like unfair.
I think everyone forgets.
It is cigar and slipper stuff, is it? Like when he plays,
it was embarrassing how far ahead he was of everybody. It was when Marcos Senna and all that were at Villarreal, and like the level of technical
Was it under
ability.
Bielsa?
It might have been.
I think that was under Bielsa.
Yeah, it might have been, but like the level of technical execution and the vision, it was just like.
Because there was, for a while, there was him and Aymar. I mean, Pablo
Yeah,
Aymar.
I just don't know what I remember thinking at the time. Like, why are all the top clubs in the world not falling over themselves to sign? But I don't think he cared. I think that was I didn't think he really wanted to. I think he was comfortable at being at lesser reputation, even though they're massive clubs. Team, and then obviously for Argentina, the set pieces, like just like flat bullets, and he'll tell you like floated corners into the box. I am not a fan of.
He's going off the set.
So, like,
I've got to sit next to him in the
so,
like,
the set pieces and just the general ability. And just a player that when you go and watch him live, I just spent the whole game just going, oh my God, like just incredible. Forlan was up front as well. Great team.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he was amazing.
I've got to take my hat off here. Second Rangers fan to put Henrik Larsson in your team.
Yeah, how can you not?
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, if you try and deny it, then you're just consumed by the idiocy of the whole scenario. Like, I don't think we will ever see a player as good as that in Scotland if things don't change drastically in terms of funding in our lifetime. And, I think in Alex Ferguson's book, he said they put in 3 bids for Larsson. How much was the third bid?
Yeah.
What would it be worth in today's money? And people will scoff at it. I genuinely think for a couple of years at Celtic, when he scored like the 50, 60 goals in a season or whatever it was, he was the best striker in the world.
Yes.
Playing in the SPL. That will never happen again.
No,
we will never have the best player or the top 3 players in the world in any position playing in this country, I don't think, in their prime. And he was just unplayable and one of the best strikers I've ever seen. And my brother obviously was a Celtic supporter, and we went to Seville for the cup final, and maybe the best individual performance I've ever seen live from him. Just unbelievable.
I spoke about that a few episodes ago. Probably
the first header across the goalkeeper,
the one that glances across the goalie.
I heard best individual performance, and I thought you were going to bring up Bobo Baldo. But
no, not a game.
But I mean, just what a player.
It was the manner of the goals as well. There was none of them were tap-ins. Like you skin 3 boys, you'll put one in for 25 yards, you'll put it in a header. It's unreal.
I don't think there'll be anybody from the SPL at 32 or 33 will go on a free transfer to Barcelona again. No. I don't think that'll happen. So,
Oh, that's mad. So you picked Maldini. Maldini
Just
is
love him,
in Steph's 11 as well. Centre back, but only because Cole's in at left back.
I had to get Ashley Cole in, so I had to. Maldini's probably the best left back ever, but he obviously was quite a handy centre back as well.
Yeah.
So
and the guy you've got on the other side,
get him in, but I needed to get Ashley Cole in. So
you've got Dani Alves on the other side as well. Like, so it's formidable. That to be fair, like Roy Keane. I don't know. I prefer him as a pundit. I think he's fantastic. Like, I just think he's so straight edged.
I'm the opposite. I'm not a big fan of him as pundit.
No,
I love him.
I think sometimes he's trying to be the arsehole. Like,
I get that as well. Yeah,
and I'm like, just smile, man. Like, it's fine.
We get it. You played in the 90s. Get on with
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Yeah, he is good. He's good at it, but sometimes I'm like, come on. It's when he says about the keepers, like it's their job and all that. It's like you're at it. You're at it.
Yes.
Nah, I'm backing him.
Right, gents, thank you very much for the last hour and a bit. That's been
problem.
Oh, thank you.
an absolute pleasure. Anyone listening to us, get down and watch an Elgin game. I can assure you, if somebody's watched the last 10 seasons, the most entertaining we've had.
That's very kind, thank you.
A long time. We've suffered the days of having Craig beating our team as a Roman sweeper, like, so at 36-year-old it didn't really work. We're up to 77 on Spotify as of today, up to, I think we're 1,200 odd followers through all our social media platforms. Please give us a 5-star rating. It helps people find us, because we TikTok following, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen on, YouTube. Always finish with the same question. If there's a penalty to save your life, who takes the penalty if it has to be scored?
A penalty.
It has to be scored to save your life.
Van Nistelrooy.
Van Nistelrooy. Only missed one in his career.
Probably the same, to be fair. Just
Van
He's
Nistelrooy.
balled it. He's balled it.
I've shite bagged this time. I can't think. I don't know. No, I'll give it to Bojan Miovski because he's my boy. I'll give
Quality
it to
player.
him.
I wanted him at Celtic this season.
Yeah, he's my friend and he's my boy. So
Yeah.
I'll trust him with it.
Had to get that in there.
Name drop,
my
clang,
friend. He's my
clanging the
friend.
names.
No, thanks, gents. It's been a pleasure.
No, thanks you. Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks very much.